Welcome to the Elle Bee Show. I'm your host, Elle Bee. So, most of the things that you're about to hear are my opinion. But guess what? We sprinkled in some facts because we're what? Educated bees over here in this hive. Don't forget to check out the website for our resources so you can do some additional research on your own. Now, prepare to be stung, but the solve is not included. So, we're jumping in today to a topic that is very sensitive and near and dear to my heart for several different reasons. Partly because I've worked within part of the system and because one day I see myself doing this. So, we're talking about colorism and adoption and how it impacts our children. It is widely known that when it comes to adoption, especially within the U.S., the white kids, mostly, for the most part, get adopted first. When it comes to children of color, Asian kids, Hispanic kids will go before the black kids. When it comes to the black children, the light-skinned girls, they always go first. The light-skinned boys, they go second. Medium brown girls, third. Medium brown boys, fourth. Dark-skinned girls, fifth. And then dark-skinned boys, they go last. A lot of times when it comes to the darker-hued children, they end up being in foster care system for a longer time than others unless they are adopted by somebody that is a family member. And that can have a lasting impact on a child because it makes them think that they are not worthy of being loved. Now, how these kids end up in the system in the first place can be for several different reasons. It could be because their parents pass away suddenly and there's nobody in their family that is able to take them in, or nobody else in the family is willing to take them in. It could be because, their parents end up in jail, or prison, which is not hard to do if you're Black in America. That's just a fact. All of us that are walking around out here free, we're statistical graces, that we're able to do that, even though, there are more of us that are not in jail or in prison than there are of us in jail or in prison. But as we've talked about throughout the season, colorism and stereotypes, they go hand in hand. So there's that factor. It also could be where, they maybe are adopted by a grandparent or something like that. And then the grandparent passes away. And then they end up back in the system again. And they have to wait for somebody else to either adopt them or they time out. In my younger days, while I was in undergrad, I did an internship in the juvenile justice system, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I wasn't exposed to as a kid, because I'm not going to lie, I have a big family, as I told you all before, so I kind of lived a sheltered life because I was always with my family. So, yay for me, because that is a blessing. A lot of people don't have that. And I, as an adult, I definitely understand that. But doing this internship in the juvenile justice system, it made me see how quickly something can go left for anybody. A lot of the juveniles were in situations where they ended up in the system because they were in terrible situations, because their parents were pretty terrible people, as in lackluster. They didn't care about their kids or what their kids did, so they had no adult supervision. So they were doing whatever they wanted to do to get to wherever they were trying to go. And eventually they ended up in some type of trouble, which is how they got in the system in the first place. Another side of this is that you have the foster care system, which some people who are foster parents should not be foster parents. Period. They foster kids for a check. Period. they never go to adopt the kids, because when you adopt somebody, that means you're no longer making money off of that kid. The state is no longer paying you to take care of that kid, which means that you have to use your own money that you earn from your own job. And some people, fostering children is their job. Now, I'm not saying it's all bad, because I do know people that have been adopted, that grew up in the foster care system, that had great foster parents, or they were adopted by great people. So that they were considered the lucky ones. But I also know people that grew up in the foster care system and or were adopted that had terrible foster parents, where they were treated as if they were just a check. That's how they grew up, which causes additional issues as you get older. You could have self-esteem issues. You could have defiancy issues. You could have issues regarding authority or anybody that is trying to help you from a genuine place, that you don't accept it, or whatever the case may be, because you've never had that type of relationship, that bonding relationship that you experience as a child growing up with your parents. So you're always on the defensive. You're always on the, I'll figure this shit out myself because I only have myself to depend on. And then you go through life like that, which in turn can become a problem. So, it's like adoption is something that I personally have looked into and considered, because I've always wanted to have kids. But because I grew up in a single parent household, I was just like, I'm not married, so I don't want to have kids by myself. But the older I get and the more things that I accomplish in my life, it's become somewhat harder for me to meet somebody that I feel is my equal, that evens me out. Because they do exist. They are there. I just haven't met that person yet. That's my story. But in the meantime, in between time, I have so many people in my family who are just like, oh, you would be such a great mom. Have you ever thought about having kids? This is that or whatever. And I'm like, of course I have. Duh. I know I'm a great person. I want to share that with somebody else. I need somebody else to experience all this greatness, all this love, all this knowledge, all this wealth, all this energy, all this creativity that I have to share. So I looked into adoption because I'm just like, if I can't have a baby on my own, I'll adopt a baby and raise that baby as my baby. But here's the deal. When it comes to adoption in the U.S., it is extremely hard and it is extremely expensive. And I mean tens of thousands of $20,000s of dollars to adopt. Now, there is a full process that you have to go through where you got to do a background check, a credit check, you got to go to therapists to make sure you're not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, all those types of things. They're requirements if you are adopting a child through a state agency or a government agency. But if you're looking to adopt a child through a private agency, which is also an option, then expect to pay double. So like $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 in some cases. It depends on where you are. And now they have this like where you can do like this somewhat of a designer type of baby where you can pick the child's race. You can pick if you want them to be light or dark. You can pick, pretty much anything you want for said child, and then that's the type of baby that you will get. You can get twins if you want multiples, triplets if they're available. It's up to you of what you're looking for, of what you actually get. But why is that the case? Why do you have to? I mean, I understand that you don't want to give people a child and have them grow up in an environment where they won't feel safe, or they won't be protected, or they won't be loved. But what about all these people that are foster kids that treat them like shit? So you have, all these options of ways that you can become a parent. And in the U.S., because it is a lot harder, because there are so many steps that you have to go through, a lot of people choose to look elsewhere to become a parent, where they adopt kids from other countries. China, Europe, Africa. But there are millions of kids in the system here in America that would love to have a loving home and a loving family. Now, for me, the options still is not off the table. I'm still on the younger side of life, so I'm about it. I'm still up for chasing around a little kid, and I'm not to say that it will never happen, because that is still something that I'm looking into, that I would be willing to do, that I want to do, because I want to be a parent and I want to share all the things that I have to give with the next generation. But I have a lot of friends that, have fertility issues, and we have these conversations because, that's where I am in life right now, where we talk about families and shit. And I'm like, well, have y'all ever looked into adoption, or maybe looked into fostering? Because if you foster first and then you adopt, it does become easier, because you've already done all these steps. Because to be a foster parent, you pretty much have to do everything that you would be doing if you were looking to adopt. So we have this conversation, and I'm just like, have you ever thought about adopting? And a lot of my friends be like, no, I never even considered that. And then my question is, well, why not? It's like, if you can't have a baby naturally on your own, and there are millions of babies in America, children that need good homes, why not consider going that route? I know a lot of people that are adopted that I didn't know they were adopted until we had that conversation. And it came up for most of them out of the blue. It's just like, are you adopted? For real? Well, what was that like? And then I hear their story, and then sometimes I just be like, what? That happened to you? What? And some of the stories that you hear, you're just like, damn, you had to go through all of that. They're not all bad, though, because some people that I know that were adopted by the best people you could ever find on the planet. And they were never made to feel like they weren't blood related, which is great, which is what I would be if I get to the point of adoption. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely something that you should consider. And don't just look at the light-skinned kids. Take you home a chocolate baby. Chocolate babies need love too. I love me a good chocolate baby. My nephew is not chocolate, and I was a little mad at first. I love him because he's amazing. But I was like, where is the chocolateness? His parents are chocolate. He is not chocolate. He's like not chocolatey enough for me. But I love him regardless, because, that's my baby. It's my little poo. And he has me running ragged because he runs now, because he's one. So he runs around and he has us all running ragged. But he's like the same complexion as my mother, his grandmother. So I guess the melanin skipped a generation. He's melanated, just not chocolatey melanated. So I would like to thank you for hanging around with us for 10 episodes. I know, the last episode was heated, talking about colorism in corporate America, because it's lived experiences, and we all go through different things in life at different times for different reasons. And everything that you go through is supposed to be a lesson of something. You're supposed to get something out of it. If you're not getting anything out of it, then you weren't paying attention. And then you have to repeat it and go through it again. And most of the time, from personal experience, when you don't get it the first time, it hits you harder the second time. Just take that advice, okay? Roll with it, because God don't play. So, the food for thought for today is that you deserve love no matter your color. All kids deserve to be loved. It shouldn't matter what their color is, how light or how dark they may appear on the hue. They all deserve love because children are innocent. They didn't ask to be here. With this season, I do hope that something has activated you to make changes in your life or to be a part of change in somebody else's life. I hope that you were able to receive the information that was given, that it impacts you in a positive way, not a negative one. But you can get radical. You can get active. You can make a difference. You can change somebody else's life. You can change your own life. You just have to take the information, digest it, make the adjustments, and keep it going from there. So, we'll have some more to talk about later. We'll have a special coming up because I want to hear your feedback. I want your comments. I want your challenges. I want your questions. I want all of that. Bring it. I'm a Capricorn. Can't hurt my feelings. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in to the Elle Bee Show. Make sure you share, subscribe, and sound off. I hope you got sung. Who knew it could feel so good?